assessment.
I would,
well, I still put the value first on the educational component, and then if that grows, I'm sorry, Ms. Mayo, but if that grows, then that would be what to me is the primary value.
we've been approached about the license in the past, and the amounts were very nominal. The board, as I recall, at those particular time, felt the station was worth much more. I do believe that we should determine the potential value of the resource, and so I would support staff's desire to continue to determine what the value of the license and the station would be. And I would state that at the end of the year, the district would also to determine the placement of the program, because it could be there would be a better situation for the placement of the program. So I think it's important for us to be open to potential changes. Any other board comments?
I'd just like to say that I do think it's unreasonable for us to place the caveat that we may change, that we may do something with the station in the middle of a school year. So I would support a modification of the recommendation that would indicate that if a change is going to be made, that it not be made in such that it impacts students that are currently enrolled in a class and currently working through a class during an academic school year. So if we could, I'm not going to attempt to wordsmith that language here on the dais right now. So I would support that. I don't support the other recommended modifications in terms of us trying to come up with a way to evaluate effectively a program at another at KVHS. I mean, I think we do. I mean, as a Board of Education entrusted to oversee the assets of the Mount Abbey Unified School District, we have an absolute fiduciary responsibility to determine the worth of the asset prior to determining what to do with it permanently. So I would support that. I would rather see the station retained by the school district and used at one of our schools. I think the value, I mean, KVHS has always been a program that I've valued because of the experience that it gives students, not just in radio, but in many, many aspects of life. As was pointed out by the speakers, we can point to numerous success stories of students that have gone through KVHS, and a lot of that's based on the instructors that we've had in place there. A lot of it's due to the nuances of the need, or, you know, having to operate a radio station and kind of being in a real world scenario in terms of the educational environment. So, you know, I don't know if do we absolutely need to make a decision tonight? Is it imperative? I mean, the one thing that I will say is placing, where I do see it's imperative that we do something tonight is that we have in place the protections that are going to, so that Clayton Valley Charter High School understands what the parameters are. Because as you state, if something goes on that's inappropriate at that radio station on air, and we get slapped with a big, huge fine or some other sanction, they need to understand that that's going to immediately cause a revocation of this agreement. So I think having that in place. So you know, if there's a way we can wordsmith this, so all we're doing is changing, modifying the language so that we're not making we're not pulling the educational experience away from students that are currently enrolled, I would support moving forward, but not with all the other stuff that's being added.
May I just respond to your question? I think you asked if it was imperative that we do something tonight, and I would say the answer is yes. You either vote on this in some form or not, but if you do nothing, then students who might have an opportunity to use the program this semester at Clayton Valley, they won't have that. So I think tonight
Can I also say one other thing? I just received a text message from KVHS, of all people, saying that we're not on the air there. Is there a button that we need to push, or a cord we need to plug in, or is there something on is there something we do on our end?
It's on. They haven't been broadcasting the board meetings for some time.
We'll find out what's going on.
Okay.
We'll make sure the next board meeting is.
I just find it ironic that of all nights, it's not on right now, right?
I would be happy here to address Mr. Everhart's concerns about the amendment that I proposed and maybe rephrase it in a way that will sound clearer. So I could move to amend that we strike those two statements that I read about the 90-day sale or the 90-day notification and replace it with no sale of radio station KVHS FM shall be considered until the conclusion of the Mount WSD 2012-13 academic school year. And that way we don't disrupt the education midstream.
Totally agree.
Okay, so I'm trying to figure out the wording of the new motion here, because I believe I have to type it in.
It's the same thing except for you're striking the last sentence that you've typed.
Just in with academic school year period.
So can you amend that word?
Let me see if I
Make
can
a
amend
motion
it.
to amend my amendment.
Let me see if I can amend this one. So the new motion is amend just, so we have,
Copy and paste it and just.
okay.
Second,
I
we'd have to
think
agree.
I would agree.
Goal is to give them a year and give us a year to try to develop a good, solid program again.
Okay, so I have the strike, amend to strike, in the event that discussions with KQED or another buyer make a sale appear imminent, the district would give CVCHS 90 days notice on the sale. This 90 days notice would allow the period. So we're striking that
Yes.
and then adding on,
Replacing it with no sale of radio station KVHS FM shall be considered until the conclusion of the Mount WSD 2012-13 academic school year.
that was, okay, it's not the same,
Not
the
that I
same,
will.
still agree with that.
That's what I read.
What I heard had it at the earliest, at the end of it, shall be considered.
Shall not be considered, or no
Until-
sale shall be considered until the conclusion of the MDUSD 2012-13 academic school year.
Ms. Hanson, would you
Yes.
like no sale or disposition? That would be in keeping with, I think, the spirit of what you're asking for, so that we don't lease it out otherwise as well.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Cooksey.
Replaced with no sale or disposition of KVHS FM shall be considered until the conclusion of the MDUSD 2012-13 academic school year. That's what I have. Okay, let me submit that as Mrs. Hanson and Mrs. Mayo. Any other board discussion? Okay, I will call for a vote on it. Motion carries 5-0-0.
I think it's obvious everyone values the program, so thank you very much.
Thank you. So I do not need to go back to vote on these others because this one passed. So we can move on to the next item on the agenda.